The hall was silent, filled with the soft humming of machines and the quiet breathing of dozens of alien species. The Galactic Unity Council had gathered, its circular chamber glowing with pale blue light. In the center, a massive holomap showed. The edge of the galaxy, red dots moved across at enemy signals. The Varnock swarm was coming. Captain Ethan Drake stood tall, his human uniform spotless, his voice calm but firm. He looked around at the many alien faces. Some had scales, others had fur, some floated, and some sat in tanks of liquid. But all of them shared one thing: fear. "We all know what the Varnock are capable of," Ethan said, pointing at the map. "They have destroyed 12 systems in the last 6 months. Earth is next, but we can stop them. If we stand together." A murmur spread across the room. A tall insectoid, alien named Chancellor Kiret, clicked his mandibles. "Human," he said, "your courage is noted. But we must think of survival. Our homeworlds are far from the Varnock path. Earth is in their way, not us." Admiral Cole Harris, seated beside Ethan, slammed his hand on the table. "So you let them take us? And when they grow stronger, you think they will stop? The Varnock don't stop." A three-eyed diplomat from the Raloon species raised his voice. "With respect, your Earth is just one planet. We cannot risk the lives of billions for one world." Ethan clenched his jaw. He had expected hesitation, but not complete cowardice. Lieutenant Commander Olivia Burns, a young officer with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "We came here asking for unity. For once, we need to act like a united galaxy. If Earth falls, no one is safe." Silence followed. Then, one by one, the council members cast their votes. A glowing ring above each seat turned red. Withdraw, abandon. Earth, prepare for evacuation. Only 2 seats stayed blue. The humans. Chancellor Kirat stood, his voice final. "The vote is clear. The Council will not support a defense of Earth. We advise immediate evacuation." Ethan looked at him, then at the others. "So that's it. You run? You leave us to die?" "It is not personal," said a silver-skinned alien. "It is logical." Ethan turned to Olivia and Cole. He didn't shout. He didn't beg. He simply nodded. "Then we fight alone," he said. The room was quiet. No one stopped them as they stood and left the chamber. As they walked through the long corridor outside, Olivia asked softly, "Do you think we can win?" Ethan looked ahead, eyes hard as steel. "We have no choice. We fight or we vanish." The shuttle that took them back to the Terran embassy floated silently above the Galactic Council station. The view of space stretched wide beyond the glass. Earth was still days away, but their mission had failed. Inside the shuttle, Cole opened a secure line to Earth. The message was brief. "This is Admiral Cole Harris. The Council has denied all support. Earth stands alone. Begin Bastion Protocol." Back on Earth, the message spread like fire. News channels repeated the phrase again and again. Earth stands alone. In cities and colonies. People watched with fear and anger. But they also watched with something else. Resolve in a military bunker deep under Colorado. Engineers began waking up old warship plans. In hidden shipyards around the moon, welding sparks lit up the darkness. Project Bastion had begun. Ethan Drake stood at the window of the embassy's command center, staring into the stars. He remembered his family back home, his brother in New York, his mother in Texas. "They think Earth is just one planet," he muttered. "But Earth is our home. And we will show them what home means to a human." On the other side of the galaxy, the Varnock swarm moved like a black wave. No signals, no talks, no warnings. Just destruction, and Earth was next. But this time, humanity would not go quietly. They would fight with steel, with fire, with everything. They had, and maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. Earth had never known true unity until the day the galaxy turned its back. When the message from the Galactic Council arrived, it broke hearts and set fire to spirits. There would be no help, no allies, no reinforcements. Earth stood alone in the capital city of New Geneva. A new banner was raised above the Terran Command Center. It showed the Earth surrounded by stars, not in friendship, but in defiance. The words below read, "We are the shield." Admiral Cole Harris stood before the Terran Assembly, a room filled with leaders from every nation and colony. His voice echoed through the room, firm and cold. The Bastion Protocol is now active. We are no longer many nations. We are one force. The Terran Defense Accord begins now. The leaders nodded, one by one. Even old enemies shook hands. The time for arguing had passed. Under the Bastion Protocol, every resource was to be redirected to defense. Civilian factories were turned into warship foundries. Old spaceports became military hubs. Every orbital platform was upgraded with weapons. Project Bastion was led by Nathan Griggs, one of the last surviving engineers from the Mars shipyards. He was a man with grease on his hands and a laser torch always at his side. He worked without sleep, turning scraps into armor. 3 great warships were chosen to lead Earth's new fleet. The Tempest, fast and deadly. The Iron Veil, thick and nearly indestructible. And the Horizon Edge, built for long-range support. All 3 were just frames when the work began, but every day they grew. Captain Ethan Drake was assigned to command the Tempest. He spent his days helping train crews and his nights studying the Varnock's battle tactics. He knew time was short, Major. Ava Riley was put in charge of ground defenses. She had once led peacekeeping missions, but now she prepared for war. She set up defense rings on Earth, Luna, and Mars. Satellite shields were deployed above major cities. Recruitment stations were flooded with volunteers. Some were trained soldiers, others were farmers, teachers, or miners. But all were ready to fight. No one wanted to wait for the Varnock to arrive in a small camp outside of Houston. 4 new recruits stood in line. Noah, a mechanic from Alaska. Marcus, a former security officer. Alina, a shuttle pilot from the Europa colony. And Riley, a young woman from Kenya who had never left her home city until now. They looked up as a shuttle passed overhead, carrying materials to orbit. "That one's heading to the Horizon Edge," Marcus said, pointing. "How do you know?" Riley asked. "You hear things," he replied with a shrug. Their drill instructor, Sergeant Maria Cortez, stepped in front of them. She was short, scarred, and had a voice like thunder. "You're not soldiers yet," she barked, "but you will be, or you'll be ashes. Now move." Training was brutal. Gravity drills, zero-G combat, weapons assembly under pressure, emergency decompression. Protocols. Some quit. Most did in single quotes. Meanwhile, high above Earth, work continued without rest. Engineers used every trick they knew. Civilian cargo ships were turned into armored haulers. Drones helped weld huge plates to the hulls of the warships. One night, Nathan Griggs stood on the outer spine of the Iron Veil, staring at the stars with a welding torch in his hand. A young tech joined him. "Do you think we'll be ready in time?" The tech asked. Nathan didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars, then back at the half-built ship. "We have to be," he said quietly. The Varnock swarm was not waiting. Reports came in from deep space sensors. Systems were falling. Colonies vanished without a signal. The Varnock didn't talk. They didn't demand. They simply consumed. "Admiral." Harris gathered his commanders in orbit, aboard the half-operational Tempest. The ship still smelled like burned circuits and fresh metal. The briefing room was small, but filled with tension. "We intercept them at Neptune," Harris said, pointing at the map. They won't expect resistance that far out. If we hit them hard, we buy time for Earth." Captain Drake nodded. "Even if we only have half the fleet ready, we make it count." The others agreed. It wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. Delaying, holding the line, the first ships moved out 3 days later. The Tempest, not fully armed. The Iron Veil, missing half its shielding. The Horizon Edge, untested, but they flew. Earth watched them rise into the sky, leaving blue behind for black. On the surface, people gathered in streets and parks to watch. Children pointed, elders prayed, and families held each other close. "Come back to us," someone whispered, watching the ships vanish into the stars. The next time they saw those ships, it would be in war, and Earth would stand alone, but not without hope. The training field stretched across the desert, filled with dust, heat, and the sound of shouting. Rows of new recruits marched, lifted, ran, and dropped to the ground over and over. Boot camp was not a place for rest. It was where civilians became soldiers. Riley gasped for breath as she climbed out of the trench, covered in mud and sweat. Alina pulled her up. "Come on, we're almost done," Alina said. "You said that an hour ago," Riley replied, coughing. "Yeah, and I meant it." Nearby, Noah fixed a broken training drone with shaking hands. Marcus was doing push-ups under the hot sun, his arms trembling. Sergeant Maria Cortez walked through the rows, her boots crunching the sand. She stopped by each recruit, shouting corrections and insults, but also watching. Always watching. "Noah, you fix that drone like you fix your grandma's toaster, not like it's gonna save your life." "Move." Noah grunted, sparks flying from his. "Tools, yes, Sergeant." She moved on. Back at the main base, Captain Ethan Drake visited the training grounds. He stood beside Cortez, arms crossed. "How are they doing?" he asked. "They're tired, slow, soft," Cortez answered. "But they're learning. Some of them might live." Drake didn't smile. "They have to." Every day the news from space got worse. Colony after colony went silent. The Varnak were getting closer. The fleet near Neptune was preparing, but Earth needed soldiers too for the skies and the ground. Ava Riley, now a general, oversaw ground defense units. She visited the camps often, inspecting progress. When she spoke with fire. "This isn't about medals. This isn't about pride. This is about surviving. The Varnak don't take prisoners. You fight or you die." Her words stayed in the hearts of the young recruits. In the evenings, the recruits sat around metal crates, eating rations and sharing stories. "I used to fix cars," Noah said, chewing a protein bar. "Now I fix drones and pray they don't blow up in my face." "I flew shuttles on Europa," Alina added, "cargo haulers mostly. Never thought I'd fly in a war." "Security back in the cities," Marcus said, "fought gangs." "That was bad. This is something else." Riley was quiet. Then she spoke. "I farmed with my family. Simple life. I never wanted this. But Earth is my home. If I don't fight, who will?" The others nodded. The next day brought another challenge. Zero-gravity training. They were taken to an orbital station where the gravity was turned off. Inside the ship, chaos began. Riley floated into a wall, spinning. "How do you even move?" she cried. "Push off," Marcus said, laughing as he helped her. "Use your legs, don't flail." Alina, more experienced, moved like a swimmer in space, smooth. And controlled Noah clung to a bar, tools floating beside him, trying to reassemble a laser rifle upside down. They trained with weapons, learning to shoot in space, how to rotate using jetpacks, how to plant explosives on holes. Sergeant Cortez clapped slowly, floating near them. "Not bad. Still sloppy, but not bad. Don't get cocky. Space doesn't forgive mistakes." Back on the Tempest, Ethan reviewed files. The fleet at Neptune was nearly ready, but they would still need trained fighters. He sent requests for the top 10% of ground recruits to begin starfighter training. Marcus and Alina were among the names selected. The day they left for flight school, Riley hugged Alina tightly. "Come back in one piece," she said. "You too," Alina smiled. "We'll meet again in orbit. Promise." Flight school was harsh. Simulators tested their reflexes, their ability to make choices in seconds. Lena struggled at first, but her cargo piloting skills gave her control. Was bold, sometimes too bold, flying dangerously close to simulated debris. One instructor, a former pilot named Cole Vega, gave them advice they never forgot. "In space, no one saves you. Your ship is your only friend. Treat it right, and it might bring you home." As weeks passed, the recruits began to change. They were stronger, smarter, quieter, eyes that once held fear now burned with purpose. Earth's orbital fleet watched their progress too. Commanders aboard the Horizon Edge requested trained gunners. Riley was selected to join the ship as a combat technician the night before she left. She stood outside the camp, looking at the stars. Noah joined her. "Think we'll see Earth again?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. "If we fight hard enough, if we hold the line, maybe." The next morning, shuttles carried them away. One by one, they rose into the sky. Sergeant Cortez watched them go. She didn't smile, but her eyes held something close to pride. Humanity was not ready, but they were getting close. Darkness filled the outer edge of the solar system. The stars were quiet, distant, and cold. But something was moving between them. A Varnock scout fleet, 5 sharp black warships glided through space like knives. Their hulls were covered with spines and strange organic armor. They made no sound, no broadcasts. They simply advanced. On the edge of Neptune's orbit, humanity's first defense fleet floated in wait. The Tempest led the group, followed by the Iron Veil and Horizon Edge. Around them, smaller frigates and fighters held their positions. Captain Ethan Drake stood on the bridge of the Tempest, eyes on the tactical display. Red dots blinked closer. "Status?" he asked. "Varnock fleet approaching." "Estimated time, 20 minutes, his officer replied. Admiral Cole Harris appeared on the com screen from the Horizon Edge. "We hit them fast before they scan our numbers." "Agreed," Ethan said. "Let's show them Earth isn't easy prey." On board the Iron Veil, gunners prepared their weapons. Missiles were loaded. Defense systems were activated. Meanwhile, in the Horizon Edge hangar, Riley strapped herself into her station. She was nervous, but focused. Her job was to manage targeting systems and drones. Remember, her squad leader said, "You don't need to be perfect. You just need to hit harder than they expect." Far out, hidden among asteroid debris, smaller stealth crafts waited. These were old cargo ships, now fitted with mines and torpedoes. Their job was simple. Surprise, the Varnock didn't slow. They didn't change course. They didn't even raise shields. It was like they didn't fear anything. But Earth had a plan. All ships, Admiral Harris called, "Engage." From the Tempest, torpedoes shot into the dark. The first hit landed on the lead Varnock scout, breaking part of its side open. Acid leaked from the wound, strange and green. The Varnock reacted fast. Their ships turned like animals, sensing prey. Energy pulses fired from their weapons, burning into space. One human frigate was hit instantly, cut clean in half. Alarms rang. The battle had begun. Ethan shouted orders. "Deploy fighters. Use cover. Don't let them draw you into the open." Small human fighters darted out like bees, swarming the larger enemy ships. Among them, Marcus and Alina flew side by side. "You see that big one?" Marcus said. Already on it, Elena replied, looping around a burning asteroid. They dodged blasts and fired missiles at the Varnic engines. One hit. The ship spun slightly, slowing down, but the Varnic returned fire. Marcus's ship shook. I'm hit, still flying. Keep moving, Elena shouted. I'll cover you. On the horizon edge, Riley worked fast. She controlled a group of defense drones, now moving to intercept a Varnic vessel. Come on, she whispered, guiding the drones just a little closer. The drones exploded in unison, disabling the enemy ship's weapons for a few seconds. Just enough time for the Tempest to fire. Another Varnock ship exploded, but humans were falling too. 2 frigates lost. Dozens of pilots gone. The cost was rising. Still, Earth didn't back down then. From behind the asteroid field, the hidden ships activated. Mines floated into the path of the last Varnock ship. It didn't stop. It never did. The mines exploded. The ship twisted, burning, but kept moving. A final message blinked on the comm screens. Prepare to be extinguished. The Tempest fired one last missile. The last Varnock scout ship exploded, debris scattering into the void. Silence returned. The battle was over. On the bridge of the Tempest, everyone was quiet. Then slow claps began. Not for celebration, but for survival. Ethan looked at the empty space where the Varnock had come from. That was just a scout group, he said. The main swarm is still coming. Admiral Harris nodded grimly. But we made our point. Earth won't go down without a fight. Back on Earth, news of the battle spread. People cheered and cried. But they knew the war was far from over. In the training camps, new recruits trained. Harder in factories, workers moved faster. In homes, families held on to hope, and across the stars, other species watched. Silent, curious. Humanity had faced the Varnock alone, and they had survived, for now. The Varnock scout fleet was destroyed, but no one on Earth celebrated for long. Everyone knew the real war had not started yet. That was just the warning. In every city on Earth, people began preparing. Not just the soldiers, but civilians too. Old factories reopened, turning out weapons and armor. Schools taught children how to take shelter. Hospitals trained staff for mass injuries. The skies above Earth were filled with movement. Drones buzzed from station to station. Cargo ships delivered supplies. Satellites were turned into weapons. Earth was now a fortress. General Ava Riley stood on a high platform at Terran Command. She looked down at the growing crowd of soldiers and civilians gathered for the Unity ceremony. A single flame burned in the center of the stage. When she spoke, her voice echoed across loudspeakers, radios, and screens around the world. The Varnock are coming. The galaxy has left us. But we are not alone. We are billions. Different faces. Different languages. One home, one purpose. We will not run. We will not beg. We will stand. The crowd was silent. Then one voice shouted, "We fight." Others joined in. Soon the chant spread through the crowd like fire. We fight. We fight. We fight. The flame burned higher. Above the Earth, in orbit, new defenses came online. Massive railguns were placed on the orbital ring. Laser grids were installed across the Moon. Mars sent old war probes to join Earth's fleet. The Tempest, Iron Veil, and Horizon Edge returned to dock for quick repairs and upgrades. Engineers worked around the clock, welding, sealing, and testing. No one slept much. There was no time in the Tempest's hangar. Marcus and Alina cleaned their fighters. Their faces were tired but focused. Still got burn marks from that Varnock. "Blast," Marcus said, pointing at a black scorch on his ship. "At least you're still in one piece," Alina replied, checking her missile systems. "Barely," he muttered, then smiled. You saved my tail out there, just doing my job. Next time, try not to fly into enemy fire." They laughed softly. The sound didn't last long. Across the station, Riley trained with her squad. They were now part of a special ground response unit. Their job would be to fight Varnock drop pods if any made it to Earth's surface. "We may be fighting in cities, in forests, even underground," her officer said. "The Varnock don't care where, so be ready everywhere." Riley practiced with new plasma rifles, heavier and deadlier than before. Her aim was sharp now. Her fear was buried deep. At Terran Command, diplomats sent messages again to the other species. Olivia Burns led the effort. "Please reconsider," she said in a recorded message. "Humanity has shown it will fight. We ask. Not for your lives, only your support. This is not just Earth's war. The Varnock will not stop." Most responses were silent. Some said nothing could be done. Others gave excuses. But a few small signals gave hope. A freighter from the Rethari arrived, dropping off crates of medical supplies and old weapons. A small group of Malkori warriors sent a message saying, "We will come." They were few, but they had not turned away. In the skies above, the defense systems were tested. Drones flew through laser nets. Fighters practiced dodging between the railguns. Mistakes were made, but lessons were learned. Captain Ethan Drake met with Admiral Harris on the horizon edge. "They'll come in numbers this time," Drake said. "Yes." Harris agreed, "and when they do, we hit them with everything." "What if it's not enough?" Harris looked out the window at Earth. "Then we make them remember who we are." Every soldier received a message that night. It was simple. Operation Shieldfall begins soon. Be ready. Trust each other. Hold the line. Riley read it twice, then set her rifle beside her bunk. Alina sat in her fighter and stared at a picture of her family. Marcus didn't sleep. He just watched the stars. The next morning, alarms rang across the fleet. The Varnock main fleet had entered the solar system. Hundreds of ships, bigger, heavier, faster. The sky had gone quiet before the storm. Earth was ready. The final battle was coming. The Varnock fleet arrived without a sound. Hundreds of dark ships moved through the blackness like shadows. They didn't send warnings. They didn't answer hails. They simply came. The Terran fleet was waiting near Saturn's rings. The planet's beautiful colors were now part of a battlefield. Ice and rock floated around the gas giant. Behind them, Earth's warships hid. Ready Captain Ethan Drake stood on the bridge of the Tempest. He looked at the glowing screen filled with red dots. "They're here," his officer whispered. Admiral Harris's voice came through the comms. "All units, hold positions, wait for my signal." The plan was simple. Trap the Varnock between the rings. Use the environment. Turn Saturn itself into a weapon. Among the clouds and debris, the iron veil floated like a steel mountain. Inside, its massive cannons charged slowly. On the horizon edge, Riley watched her screen, scanning enemy patterns. Fighters launched from every ship. Marcus and Alina flew side by side, their engines humming. "This is it," Marcus said. "Stay sharp," Alina replied. The Varnock entered the ring field. The ice chunks began to swirl. The gravity pulled everything tighter. The trap was set. Fire. Admiral Harris shouted. The darkness lit up. Railguns fired glowing slugs. Missiles flew from hidden bays. Drones attacked from behind rocks. The Varnock were hit hard, but they did not stop. They returned fire, their energy blasts tearing through several human ships. One destroyer exploded near the horizon edge, its flames swallowed by space. The Tempest shook. Ethan held on to the rail. Status. Shields. At 67%, hull holding, returning fire. Alina and Marcus danced between enemy blasts, dodging, firing, looping. "3 on your tail," Alina warned. "I see them." Cutting left. Marcus turned hard, leading the enemy into a minefield. The explosion threw his ship sideways. But the Varnock were gone in the Horizon Edge Command Center. Riley guided 2 squadrons of drones toward a massive Varnock cruiser. They clamped onto the hull and exploded together. The alien ship cracked open, spinning into Saturn's gravity well. "1 down," Riley said, breathing fast, but more came. For every Varnock ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. Their numbers seemed endless. Dot on the Iron Veil, a warning blared. Dreadnought approaching. The biggest Varnock ship yet moved into the field. It was covered in bone-like armor and glowed with red energy. Nothing had stopped it before Admiral Harris ordered all ships to fire on it. Missiles, lasers, drones, everything hit the beast, but it kept coming. "We can't hold this line," someone said. "Yes, we can," Ethan said. "Focus on the mission." Then, something changed. A signal appeared on the screen. A small fleet was arriving. Not human. Rethari ships blinked into view, followed by 3 Malkori fighters. They opened fire on the Varnock flank, drawing attention. On board the Tempest, cheers broke out. "They came," Olivia Burns said with tears in her eyes, watching from the council broadcast room. "We're not alone anymore," Ethan said. The battlefield shifted. With the new support, human ships pushed forward. Riley activated the last wave of comfort drones. She sent them straight at the Varnock dreadnought. "Come on," she whispered. The drones exploded near the engines. The dreadnought slowed, still not destroyed. Marcus flew in close. "I have 1 last torpedo," he said. "I'm going in." "Wait. That's suicide," Elena shouted. "Tell them I tried." He dove toward the dreadnought, weaving through debris. He aimed at the weak spot the drones had opened. A hit. The Varnock dreadnought cracked in half. Light pouring out of it like blood. "Marcus!" Elena cried. But no response. The ship was gone. The shock of the explosion sent pieces of the dreadnought into nearby Varnock ships. The chain reaction began. Humanity and their new allies pushed hard. The Battle of Saturn's Rings was won. But not without cost. When the fighting stopped, only half of the Terran fleet remained. The Tempest had taken heavy damage. The Iron Veil had lost its engine section. The Horizon Edge floated with burns across its hull. And Marcus was gone. Alina sat in the hangar, her face blank. "He saved us," Riley said quietly beside her. Alina nodded, holding back tears. On Earth, people watched the battle in silence. Then, slowly, they clapped. Not for victory, but for courage. Captain Ethan Drake stood in the ruins of the Tempest's command center. "Send the message to the council," he told Olivia. She nodded. The words were simple. The Varnock bled. Earth stands. Somewhere in the stars, the rest of the Varnock swarm prepared. But now, they knew humanity could hurt them, and humanity knew it too. The battlefield near Saturn was quiet now, filled with broken ships and drifting metal. The silence felt heavy. But there was no time to rest. The Varnock were not finished. Admiral Harris stood in the strategy room of the Horizon Edge. His face was bruised, his uniform torn, but his eyes were sharp. "They'll send another wave," he said, pointing at the galaxy map. "Stronger, faster, meaner." Captain Ethan Drake nodded. "We don't wait for it. We hit them first, near the moon. That close to Earth? Yes. We make our last stand at home." The damaged fleet limped back toward Earth. Repairs started at once. Crews worked without sleep. Drones buzzed across cracked hulls. On the Iron Veil, engines were rebuilt. On the Tempest, power systems were restored. Inside the horizon edge, Riley trained with her squad. Their job now was to defend Earth's surface if the Varnock made it through the sky. They dropped from orbit, her commander said, fast and deadly. You hold the ground. You protect the cities. Riley nodded. Her hands were steady now. Her fear was gone. On Earth, every shield was activated. Every gun was loaded. Cities were quiet, filled with people waiting. Families held each other close. Children looked up at the stars. Alina sat alone in the Tempest's hangar. She stared at Marcus's name now painted on the wall, alongside others who had died. You didn't die for nothing, she whispered. Suddenly, a signal arrived. The Varnock fleet had entered the moon's orbit. Dozens of ships, large and small. All units, 2 positions, Admiral Harris ordered. This is it. In orbit, human ships formed. A wide shield line between the Earth and the Moon. The Rethar and Malkori allies took positions on the flanks. The Varnock opened fire first. Blasts lit up the sky. Earth shook with distant echoes. Space burned with light. Ethan stood tall on the Tempest's bridge. Fire everything. Hold the line. The horizon edge launched its railguns. The Iron Veil absorbed hit after hit. The Tempest darted between enemy fire, returning blast for blast. Alina flew into the heart of the battle. Her fighter danced through the chaos, firing missiles at Varnock dropships. Riley, they're getting through. She shouted over COMMS. On the surface, alarms screamed. Varnock pods fell like fireballs. They hit the ground and burst open. Out came tall, insect-like creatures with red eyes and claws. Riley led her team through the burning streets of New Geneva. Her rifle was hot in her hands. Her team fired from cover, trying to slow the Varnock advance. Civilians ran for shelters. Some were caught, some were saved. It was chaos. In one alley, Riley faced a Varnock alone. It jumped at her. She fired once. Twice it kept coming. Then someone else fired from behind. The creature fell. A Malkori warrior had arrived, fighting alone. He asked. Not anymore, she replied. Together, they pushed forward. Above them, the battle grew more violent. The Tempest lost an engine. The Iron Veil's shield broke. The horizon edge took a direct hit and spun. But still they fought. Elena's ship was hit. Smoke filled the cockpit. She ejected, falling fast toward the ground. Her parachute opened just in time. She landed in a burning field, dazed but alive. She grabbed a fallen rifle and joined the ground fight. Back in orbit, the final wave of Varnock ships pushed through. One giant warship, the size of a city, moved toward Earth. Admiral Harris gave the order. All ships target that vessel. Bring it down. The fleet focused all fire on it. Missiles, lasers, drones, everything. It was not enough. Then the damaged Tempest turned toward the giant ship. Ethan gave one final order. Prepare to ram. Sir, that's suicide. It's the only way. Get the crew to the pods. I'll take it in. The others protested, but he had already locked the controls. The Tempest picked up speed. Fire pouring from its broken engines. It shot forward, a spear of light dot. Ethan sat calmly, watching the stars. This is for Earth. The Tempest crashed into the enemy warship. A chain of explosions lit up space. The Varnock vessel broke apart, pieces falling toward the moon. The rest of the Varnock fleet paused. Then, without warning, they pulled back. One by one, they vanished into dark space. On Earth, everyone waited. No new attacks came. The sky was quiet. The war was not over, but Earth had survived the worst. Admiral Harris stood before a broken screen, surrounded by injured crew. He sent one last message to all forces. Captain Ethan Drake fell today, but his courage saved our world. In the ruins of New Geneva, Riley and Alina met again. They hugged tightly. "We held the line," Riley whispered. Alina nodded. "Because we never gave up." And somewhere above them, in the stars, Earth still stood, unbroken. The skies were calm now. The smoke of battle still drifted over Earth, but the Varnock were gone. For the first time in weeks, there were no alarms, no fire in the stars, and no fear in the air. News of the victory spread fast. People in every city came out of shelters and looked up. They saw broken ships above, but also saw something else: hope. In New Geneva, Riley walked through the streets. Buildings were damaged, roads were cracked. But people were alive. Children ran to her, cheering. She smiled and waved, her uniform dusty, her rifle slung across her back at the command center. Admiral Cole Harris stood in front of a large crowd. Soldiers, workers, doctors, and civilians had gathered. His voice was tired, but strong. We stood alone. They all turned their backs on us, but we held the line. We did not fall. Did not fall. There was silence. Then clapping, then cheering. The sound grew louder. People cried, people hugged. The fear was finally leaving. Alina stood at the edge of the crowd. She looked up at the sky, remembering Marcus and Captain Ethan Drake. She missed them deeply. But she knew their sacrifice meant something. Later that day, small ships from the Rethery and Malcori landed on Earth. Their leaders stepped out and bowed. Olivia Burns met them at the landing zone. "You came when no one else did," she said. The Malcori leader, covered in silver armor, nodded. "We saw your courage. It moved us." Talks began. Quiet, respectful talks. Not about war, about peace. About rebuilding in orbit, engineers worked to recover what remained of the fleet. The Iron Veil and Horizon Edge floated near the moon, still alive. Drones collected debris. Survivors were pulled from damaged ships. A memorial was set up aboard. The Horizon Edge. Names of the fallen were listed on glowing walls. Ethan Drake's name was at the top. Admiral Harris placed a single-star medal beside it. "He didn't ask to be a hero," Harris said to those gathered, "but he became one. He saved us all." Back on Earth, something new began. For the first time, humans and aliens worked side by side, cleaning cities, fixing machines, sharing meals. Riley sat on a rooftop with Alina, eating from a ration pack. Below them, people were singing. "It feels different now," Riley said. "Yeah," Alina replied. "Like we're not just surviving anymore, we're starting something." Olivia Burns gave a speech to the Galactic Council. This time, she was not asking for help, she was offering it. "We stood alone, and we survived. Now, we invite you to stand with us. Not out of fear, but out of hope. If you want peace, we will build it together. If not, we will still move forward. Alone, if we must." Her words were broadcast across space. Some laughed. Some lessened. But many, especially those who had once ignored Earth, now paused because Earth had changed. Earth was no longer just a small blue planet. It was something more, a symbol of strength. A place of fire and heart. A home that fought when no one else would. And Earth was now leading that. The Terran Defense Accord became more than a military command. It became a council, a union of new friends and old enemies. A place where voices were heard. Riley joined the new Peace Guard, a force trained not just to fight, but to protect. Alina became a flight instructor, teaching new pilots the lessons she had learned in fire. Admiral Harris stayed on the Horizon Edge, now the new capital of space defense. Olivia Burns became Earth's ambassador to the stars. Time passed. Ships were rebuilt. Wounds healed. Cities shined again, and in a small park in New Geneva, a statue stood. It was of a man in a captain's coat, looking up at the stars, his hand holding a broken piece of hull. His name was carved into the base, Ethan Drake. Beside him were the names of thousands who had fought and fallen at the bottom. One sentence was written: when all others ran, we stood. Children came to see it every day. Some touched the names, some left flowers. Some simply stared, and high above, in the quiet dark, Earth still turned, but now it turned in peace, and it was no longer alone.